Hey.
Hi.
Hi out there in the internet world.
We are, for the first time, on YouTube tonight.
Yeah.
And so hopefully this was a lot smoother than what was going on Facebook. I know already Clint has already said that this has been much smoother for him. What do you think, Clint?
I think the mic's working. So that was the last piece of the puzzle.
So, what was the issue here with Facebook? Why was it so much easier here for us?
I don't know. I live stream for a living, and for some reason, trying to start Facebook on our end was always just an issue. And so we still have live chat, which is one of the things we encourage here. And so why not switch to YouTube? It works better. And besides Facebook, they dump live streams after 30 days now. So if you want it to persist, then you have to download it, and that's not a big deal, and then upload it. So why not just park it right here on YouTube and let her buck?
Which was our big thing.
That
We
was our
wanted
big
posterity.
We want to stick it to Zuckerberg.
It's only us old people that use Facebook.
He's
anyway.
making our lives so difficult these days, and everything he puts out there is fake AI bullshit.
Is this a PG show?
Let's get out of
Not anymore.
The internet really is all just AI and clickbait, and so it's just
Except for this show.
This is not
We
AI.
are definitely
but if
real.
you,
Are you kidding? I'm not a McDonald's.
This is
I am
authentic,
right now.
100%.
But if this video links you to some guys saving a bunch of beached whales, that's AI.
Or Bigfoot. There's a new Bigfoot video.
Bigfoot or the pumas hanging from the trees.
I don't know where to go from this.
Okay, so the point of the show
Yes.
Go ahead, Josh.
is to talk about the music that we have a music club. It's called Another Spin. We get together once a month. Everybody takes turns picking a record. We listen to the record. We share it with you guys. And then we come back live like we're doing right now. And then we start discussing the record. We've been doing this since January. And like you've already seen, we've jumped from Facebook to YouTube to make it a little more streamlined, a little better posterity.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Actually, we started it in October, but started
True.
recording
in January, yes.
was it?
No, we started in
November.
November or December. It must have been November because we skipped December. I don't remember.
Yep,
But we were the stars.
we were, and
And then
we
Brad was the star.
Mention normally, Clint's come on as our producer and
Yes.
kind of our AV guy in the past couple months.
Yep.
And we usually have Brad with us, but he couldn't be here tonight, so we got
Sit in.
a sit-in for him.
And we have to make sure we thank Kenny over there. Kenny. Music More in Bismarck, the
See the
record
logo in
store.
the corner?
The man.
He gives us the space to host this. He's also our MC, and we all recommend buying stuff from Kenny.
Yep.
Thank you very much.
And we have air conditioning
Oh.
now. I tilted the camera down so you
4
can't see
minutes?
air conditioning.
Actually, it was right. The shirt count.
I was waiting. I knew he was going to say that.
And he had to wear
I
a
didn't
shirt
even catch
because
that.
he's got to fit in.
Right.
Every other we're wearing
Right,
band shirts
right.
and stuff. It's like it's pretty obvious. Kenny's just trying to fit in.
Just so you know, Kenny is a huge Elvis fan. All he talks about is Elvis.
Yeah.
So we have a countdown on how long it takes Kenny to do anything related to Elvis on the show. Tonight it was 4 minutes.
Probably the quickest.
His record was 38 minutes.
Yeah.
But
It's unbelievable. I'm going to see how Kenny can tie Elvis to the Declaration of Independence someday.
So I'm an instant replay guy by trade. So for live sports, so we got the PBR bull riding coming. I'm typically the replay guy for the bull riding and stuff like that. Not the system we have here, but like when I work where, like if I go off someplace and they bring in all the 18-wheelers and we set up and we got satellite uplink and whatever, and they have replay systems in the trucks, the standard for that is EVS, electronic video systems. And for the past 30 years I've run these, everybody just refers to that as Elvis. So a lot of times when I'm working live sports, my role is actually as Elvis. I just don't have to put on the costume.
nice.
So.
Well, and as Josh was saying, just to give you some of you YouTubers a little background, you can go back and watch some of these episodes now. Thank you, Clint. He's downloaded all of these earlier episodes. And how this originally began is I was actually kind of just yelling to Lance across the room one day. He was down looking at some records. And I know at the church where I work, they always have a book club. And so I got to thinking one day, I was like, wow, they swap books on these book clubs. What about a record club? I said, so I screamed it out to Lance. I said, what do you think about doing a record club? And he said, yeah, that sounds interesting. And then I've known Mike from way back, and Clint I've known, but we haven't really touched it up in this way since he came into the store. And then Josh I met through the store. And then Brad, who is actually absent tonight, but like we said, we have a sit-in over there. And so I've known Brad for about 10 years, and so I've been buying and selling records for a long time. But, you know, I like making money, but also I love listening to music. And what's interesting about this idea is as it grew and took shape and we kind of started one, and of course we listened to an Elvis record to start it all off, and it was a great one. It was a great one. Elvis's first record after the comeback special. And Josh went... Josh was actually the idea behind the show, right? Making it and kind of videoing that for everybody.
Yep.
And so he said, hey, we should record it. And why didn't I think of that? So I like to think big or go home, right? And so that was a great idea. And it was also, last week I had some comments on the table. It was also Josh's idea.
Thanks, Kenny. Thanks, Mike.
Make sure credit is given where credit is due.
To
make the table. So I had this piece right here because somebody had actually given me this, and so this whole setup up here for the couch, and so I didn't know what to do with this. And Josh said, "Hey, let's put some plexiglass on it. We could put some album covers underneath it." And so I just went and had this, and this is really what took me so long. Is anybody that knows me knows I don't like spending money. And so it cost me $160 for the plexi. So it's kind of a cool idea. All you have to do is cut it, right? Scissor it. If any of you have any of these, you can do your own. It's kind of a easy setup. If you have something like this, just cut it, put some albums underneath there. Blank ones, of course. The other ones are all for sale. So with that, I'll give you into the other basic design here is that each of us pick a record, just like he said. And so Brad had last week. He's gone. I started this second round. This is actually our second round of records. And Mike is up this week. Mike, so tell us your thoughts and what's going on and what you chose.
What are thoughts? I don't have thoughts. I think
You're the only one who wore long pants. I can't believe my legs are whiter than Kenny's. I can't.
I'm tan, boy.
in my world,
white,
there's a time and a place for shorts, and
YouTube isn't it?
YouTube is not it. So this week we listened to the first New York Dolls album. Not a really influential album to me per se. It's an album I love. I picked it because I thought Kenny would really think it was the greatest album of all time. But it's one of the most retroactively influential rock albums of all time. And it's consistently on top 100 and 500 debut albums.
Is it on the Rolling Stones list?
It is.
What number?
I'd have to look it up, but I know it's on the list. It's kind of a mix. You know, you listen to it, New York Dolls, people that have been familiar with them or maybe have been seeing the album cover here on the screen. They're obviously a little androgynous in their style.
That's a big word.
So they did two proper albums when their first incarnation. They did this album and the second album, In Too Much Too Soon, before they disbanded. They didn't really catch on, probably due to their image. They probably weren't gonna. The chips were against them probably for most of Middle America in the 1970s. No one in the Midwest is going to pick up a New York Dolls album and say, well, these guys are probably going to blow my mind.
Was this a 1973 release?
71.
71?
73.
73.
It said on mine it was 71.
Well, don't trust everything.
Okay.
Yeah,
Come on.
Timu or
1973 and 74 was the next
Zuckerberg's
release.
getting to you again. But the thing that happened with this album is the next generation, namely all the 80s bands, because that's kind of those are the quintessential glam and cross-dressing bands, would often cite this album and this band as an influence. So it was, 10, 15 years later, people started hearing about the New York Dolls, and then. They still didn't get a lot of mainstream notoriety, but it was.
Well, and I think I know what I'm referring to now. You're right. So when I was looking it up, they formed in '71, but it said before they actually recorded their first album, they had already had a lot of other groups that were already trying to be like them.
Mhm.
So right, 2 years before they actually cut an album.
Yeah, and that probably happens a lot in large scenes like New York City. You're always going to have copycats. They're just outside of a city like New York, I think they're just a hard band to market.
Especially in '73.
Yeah.
When I was listening, because we listened this, we have the original master recording, so this is 4 sides, full 12-inch plate at 45 RPM. The song Jet Boy, listening to that is like, oh my gosh, this is Sig Sig Sputnik. And if you guys know Sig Sig Sputnik, that was Tony X and those guys. Later on, it was like a very, very techno version of basically the New York Dolls. And so it was after Generation X, and but yeah, there were parts of that Jet Boy that sounds like, man, it's almost like they lifted that into Sex Bomb Boogie by Sig Sig Sputnik.
So when this comes out in '73, it becomes influential in a lot of things. I think Brad said it best. Hand me Brad's sign. Before I make my comments, I'm going to be Brad for a second. The New York Dolls were a very important part of the New York scene. Alongside Kiss, they formed what would become a wave of artists like the Talking Heads, Tough Darts, Blondies, and the Ramones. They have quite a place in music history in spite of only making a few albums. Rest in peace, David Johansen. David Johansen was the singer. He passed away a couple months ago.
Yep.
Not only did they influence Kiss, Gene Simmons said that they tried to start off this way.
They tried to be a glam, but they just
couldn't
pull
do it.
off.
He was too tall.
Yeah.
They influenced the punk scene. The Ramones, like Brad mentions, the Sex Pistols. You get all the glam stuff that comes out. I mean, you hear this first record, you hear the beginnings of like the Rocky Horror Picture Show.
It's funny you said that. I was thinking Rocky Horror Picture
Meatloaf,
Show.
you can hear what would eventually influence Meatloaf. There's all kinds of things. Like I was telling Mike while we were listening to it, these guys were literally 5 or 6 years ahead of their time.
Yeah.
They get knocked for not being the greatest musicians, not the greatest songwriters, but if anybody's listened to any punk from the late 70s or 80s, I don't think there's any. I mean, there's no. You can't do that.
That's part of the allure of the album, though. And they
Absolutely.
were all at the time. I mean, they had probably only been musicians playing
for 2 or 3
for a
years.
couple of years. But you listen to this album, it's a punk album, it's a glam album, it could slide into a new wave thing 5 years later. It was a product of their inability in a way, but it just proves that rock and roll sometimes is substance is just as style is just as great as the substance.
It was counterculture in so many ways, from the album cover to the sound and everything. Not a particularly great album. I remember thinking, boy, we finally found something that can make this Bang & Olufsen system sound pretty bad. But here's the deal. If you listen to this album, you would think, holy cow, is this derivative? Except for the fact that these guys were first. This is 1973. And when you listen to it in that context, it's like, oh my gosh, I can hear how this album echoed through so many other artists and other genres.
But if you look
after
at even, they probably drew their influences. You watch videos, early videos, David Johansen, Brad's mentioned this, just a conversation. David Johansen is very Mick Jagger-esque. The way he carries himself, how he sings, he sounds, does the lip pout. I mean, it's obvious there's a Mick Jagger influence with him as a frontman.
Absolutely, you hear Rolling Stone influences in a couple songs on this record. That while you guys are talking, I'm thinking New York is just kind of a melting pot of all different kinds of cultures and all that thing. And it's always been the same way in the music scene. So these guys are probably surrounded by music and taking all the bits and pieces of the stuff that they like or influenced by, or what they're hearing other musicians do, and just kind of let's throw it all together and see what happens.
I was definitely impressed by the versatility of that album. Like
Right.
in a lot of podcasts and stuff, like you said, you hear these guys quoted as influencing like glam rock. I was actually surprised how punk heavy it was listening to it. But like even some of like the heavy vocals in there, you can tell like they were really doing different stuff. I mean, I'm not totally surprised it didn't catch on, but like you said, seeing what it's influenced.
If this would have came out in 83 or 84, it's a completely different story. Maybe even 81, 82. Because without the New York Dolls, we don't end up with, the closest thing would be Twisted Sister, right, from that side. But that happens 10 years later.
And does it
about
happen?
when they got
79,
Twisted
80.
Sister probably started in the mid to late 70s,
70,
but
80.
before it really took the glam rock explosion
Right.
for Twisted Sister.
Right.
If Twisted Sister were in the middle of that whole thing,
Right.
so and by the time they hit, they'd been around for years.
Yep.
So
Well, the
it's
thing with
just a
these
little
guys,
side note that Twisted Sister owes a lot of their success to the glam rock explosion that happened 2 years
Before
prior
that.
to that.
Right.
but what you had here was, again, like you said, a bunch of people that they really didn't have a deep musical background. I was just reading about Citizen Kane and the filmmaking, and actually, the director of Citizen Kane was talking about, I didn't know anything about making a movie like this. Therefore, what he made was so groundbreaking because it wasn't constrained by any of the rules or the standard practices or anything of that time. It was almost a scattershot approach to filmmaking, which is now considered the greatest film of all time. I certainly don't consider this the greatest album of all time, but what I'm saying is because they didn't have any constraints of formal training, long time in music, and that sort of thing, they could come out and they could put out an album like this and have that same scattershot approach. But you look at the elements of what came out of the New York Dolls and where it had all this influence across music over the next 20 years, it's the same sort of thing as it was in film.
Agreed.
But I would say it's also emblematic of the time period.
Yeah.
Because I like to talk as a history teacher, that I remember my professor in college, he was saying that, for all of American history, you see that all groups trying to become, part of the majority, right? And so you see all of these various groups who are trying to get access. Well, then all of a sudden, you hit the 60s, he goes, all hell has broke loose. And he said, now, instead of trying to be a part of, right, the mainstream, you have people who are trying to act counter to the mainstream.
But they're all doing it in the exact same way. It's the same thing with the quote-unquote counterculture. And, that's the thing. Adolescence, and that's where you find, a lot of musicians. These kids were all really young when they did all this stuff. I'm old enough where I can refer to them as kids. They all want to make their own mark on the world. That is adolescence and young adulthood in a nutshell. You want to be relevant, you want to be an individual, but what usually ends up happening is they're all individuals in the exact same way. They all, have the same look. These guys, they don't have the same look as anybody. So there's some true counterculture there, like I said at the outset.
Well, I wanted to talk about some of even what Mike had just kind of mentioned too, that I thought the rhythms, there was some really good rhythmic stuff. I love when we have like different type of mood changes within a song, and there was a couple that had some of those. I was going to say, regarding the lyrics, I'm a big lyric man, and one of the things you're going to find is kind of my thing is I just love lyrics that kind of challenge me and make me think, whether it be like kind of change my life, and I'm like, wow, this makes me really think and change something about me. I didn't get any of that. I think Mike even admitted, like, the words are not going to be that. But there was the song that I really loved that just was really big for me, and I always say, and actually I'll see if you guys can pick it. But I've always been one for the power ballad. So when everyone loves Motley Crue, they love, I love Home Sweet Home, right? When they love all these big bands, I like the power ballad. What song would you say that was my favorite? I have written down.
Your favorite off of this?
Yes.
If you're going with a ballad, Lonely Planet Boy.
That's it. I really like that song.
Interesting. I will never listen to this album again in my life, more than likely. But be that as it may, having listened to Four Sides, there were two songs that I thought kind of stood out: Bad Girl and Jet Boy.
Okay.
And I don't know, there's nothing thematic about that.
Yeah, I wasn't a huge listener. This isn't my genre, but I will be listening to Lonely Planet Boy. I'll be chalking that one up a few more times.
I think Personality Crisis stuck out. I really like the bass on that one. It had kind of more of a groove than I feel like a lot of the other ones did. And then I think it was the Start Aside 30. I'm thinking it must have been Trash then. I think those were two of them that really stood out to me listening that I really enjoyed.
Trash is interesting, just how it starts.
Right.
Starts with the chorus right away, and
I listen to this album all the way through at least twice a year.
Do you really?
Absolutely.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Absolutely. It's a
I'd
fun
be
record.
interested to hear the other one actually now after hearing this. Like I said, I've heard him mentioned for so long, but I'd never listened to, I don't think,
Can I see
any
real quick?
New York Dolls. I don't think I'd heard a song before tonight.
Now, one of the things I always love to say, and this is a great time to give a record plug for young people, this is what we call an OMR. It's an original master recording. So this is a special edition. These tend to be a little bit more expensive. One of the versions that I've got of Elvis like this cost me $200.
because you overpaid and bought it at a scalper price.
Right? And OMR, what it is it's an original master recording, and the idea behind much of what they do is that most records are spun at a certain speed when they're dubbed and recorded, and a lot of times they do it really fast so they can get a lot of stuff done, get more copies going. OMR says that we're going to do it at a half speed, right? We're going to slow that process down so you get a better recording. And I actually did, and if you want to, if you come into the store, I will let you. We'll pick, all you have to do is go into my OMR section that I have here. If we find the other album, we will play both versions, and we actually did that with Kenny Rogers, the Gambler. And I will tell you, every single person that was in the store that day said the OMR sounded better than the regular version. And I did even let them know which version which was which. I just played one version, and then I played a second version. And so some people really believe in the process, and some people say, it's just another gimmick. But
So, and we could probably turn off the air conditioner thing because I think it's probably drowning out the mic a little bit.
Yeah.
The
You just turn the
Uh-oh.
TV off.
what happened to the TV there?
that's kind of wild. In any case, do all the OMRs are they all 45 RPM
No.
or faster?
No.
No, that's
And
just
they're
in
not
this.
all half speed. The original master recording isn't necessarily half speed.
Okay.
It's just
Just
cut.
many of them are.
It's just cut from the
It's
original master
tapes.
tape.
Yep.
But there are half speed masters, and those are. So the theory behind it, if you've got a half speed, like a 33 RPM half speed master, the original stamper was cut at half of 33 and a third. So if it was 45, it would have been cut at 22 and a half RPMs. And they had experimented. If you read into like MoFi and some of their history, they tried to slow down and cut it even slower, but the problem was there's too much heat being generated because it's so slow that they just can't get a good cut if they cut it too slow. So
Oh, so you're talking like the actual Glassmaster that they press the vinyl out of is made more slowly. Okay.
Yep.
Yes.
But the playback speed, because the thing is, if you have a faster playback speed, in effect, you have a higher frequency, kind of like FM versus AM. But you're talking about them actually cutting the die to
Yeah.
press the vinyl.
so
Okay.
the theory, if you can cut it slower, you're going to get
Yeah.
more information transferred. But if you cut it too slow, they get too much heat generating, and
Sure.
Muddies it up.
it muddies it up.
That's
so.
really interesting.
And for collectability, typically, just to give you an example, I would say on average, you would typically say the OMR is probably twice the price of a regular one. Like I think the Gambler one downstairs is $10 to $12. I think the OMR is $25 to $30. So
Yeah. And so, and I don't seek, if there's something that piques me on a OMR, I'll get it. That's why I ordered this one, because this just seemed like an interesting pick for him to do. Just just didn't seem like, why the hell would they pick
Right.
the first New York Dolls album? So
Right.
I had to get it because it's the original pressing. As good as it is, I think it sounds a little muddy, and I've always kind of thought that way. So this cleans it up a little bit. The background vocals are a lot crisper. They're a lot more noticeable. The guitar leads, the solos, or what there would be, what we would consider a solo,
Right.
is a lot more.
And just so you know, too, people that are CD people, like one of the things, a lot of us are record people, but Clint, my man over here, he is a CD guy. He prefers CDs. And what I will also tell you is you can get OMR on CDs as well. So I literally just ordered one for a guy who wanted, one of my other popular customers who comes in here, he wanted a Def Leppard, no, I'm sorry, that was a Japanese
That
one.
was Japanese. Okay.
So he wanted Japanese. So you have all these different versions of these records and variants and how they do them, but that was a Japanese one. I'm sorry, I just remembered that. So we can order some of these things to you, but I've got some other OMR CDs downstairs, so.
My jaw dropped when I saw that Japanese, still shrink wrapped hysteria down there. Like, oh my goodness! So I was geeking.
I can
out.
buy you one too. I can order one
Can
for you.
get one for you too.
No, see, that was on my bucket list forever. I was trying to find that album. I didn't have the CD anymore, and I hunted around forever and finally got one. Here.
And actually, that Korean version, the not Korean, the Japanese version that I bought from the supplier, I am now ordering online. So if anybody needs anything, let me know. I can put an order in for you. It's only $22 for that CD, brand new. So let me know.
I found a Japanese issue Osmosis CD in a used bin for like $6 a while back, and it's like that was a pretty good score.
I
The
found
liner notes in Japanese and all.
I got I think it's a South Korean pressing of that, like a couple of years ago. It's a vinyl one. And I was just scouring the internet one night, and it's very limited, and it's official release.
Yeah.
And I had to pick that one up.
Right.
When my uncle was stationed in Seoul, this is when CD players were brand new. Their CDs were out pretty good, but he was on his way to becoming an audiophile when he got out of the army. But what he was doing, because he could get CDs really cheap over in Korea, is he bought tons of them and shipped them back. And he would forget what he bought, and so when he got out of the army and came back, he let me have his doubles. So that was kind of nice, including a 24 karat gold ultra disc of the Police Synchronicity, which is one of my one of my treasures. That sounds unbelievable.
Yeah, that's what a lot of the MoFi CDs
Those
are.
gold.
Gold.
The idea being that if the aluminum in a regular CD tarnishes over the years, gold will not.
Yep.
Dang.
Learn something new, right?
Yeah.
Well, I definitely think that some of these things are very worth, trying to procure to see if you really like them. I've got a bunch of Japanese albums I've been thinking about even keeping on a pick. I don't know if I want to put them out. I've been wanting to maybe go on a deep dive on that. I even bought a Coltrane for myself, and I was thinking about maybe even doing that one on one of the next ones if I choose to do that one. A Love Supreme is what I was thinking about doing. I don't think no one's ever picked a jazz one on for what we're doing yet, and I haven't actually listened to it yet, but I want to, and so it'd be a great place.
I haven't listened to it yet, but it's gonna be great.
And you know why? Do you know why I got it?
No, why, Kenny?
Because you could make a buck on it.
No. I hate making money.
Yeah.
So one of my deep dives is I love looking for Christian stuff, Christian rock, Christian rap, anything that has that influence. And I sold many copies of A Love Supreme, not having any idea of what the story behind that was. And so if I do that one, I'll save some of that story for that day. But I heard it was rooted in some of his downside in his Christian moment, and so it was like,
Why does everyone have to have? Why do you have to think that everyone had a downside in a Christian moment?
Jerry only made a Christian album after the Misfits.
Yeah.
So there you go. Thank you.
Yeah.
A lot of people do, and I just like to be there to share that moment with him, right? But I think this would be a great moment, a great segue to do a plug.
You know who didn't?
What?
release a Christian album?
Who?
The New York Dolls.
Slayer.
And that was
Slayer
the
didn't.
downfall.
The Dolls stuck to what they did, and they only
Hey.
released 2 proper albums. They did regroup in the mid-2000s,
Right.
but by that time, Johnny Thunders and Jerry Nolan had been gone. For over 10 years.
And you were never
It
going
wasn't
to
the same.
shake the whole Buster Poindexter thing, the stigma with that.
So, but now, New York Dolls are one of the bands. As we get further in the years, there's all 5 of these people on this album are no longer with us.
Yep.
Well, thanks. That just took all the air out.
I know.
Well, now
but
I'm
that's,
impressed.
that's where we're at. And
Hey, good night, everybody.
Don't forget to
No, I'm
click.
kidding.
Don't forget to click subscribe.
That's where
Do
we're
we have, do we have any comments online that we need to address?
That's where we're at.
If anybody
Not
has
yet.
any comments, remember, make
Do we have
sure
any comments?
we'll
Days
try to
over
share
yet,
it.
so.
We talk
me see
about
some
dead
comments.
people.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, every album we talk about has got but it's the reality of where we're at.
Well,
in
we
our-
know the greatest dead person is.
He ain't dead. He just went home.
He just went, oh, thanks. But I think we should do a segue
We
here.
did some comments.
Both your picks are dead.
Both
We
my
got
picks,
some
you're right.
comments. Oh.
I did Bill Withers on my second one.
Some of them on my first pick are
Eric
dead.
Wingenbach says he likes every album covered on this podcast, but this one might be his favorite. Thanks, Eric. Todd Becker said, awesome. Music and More gave a frowny face to Todd Becker's comment.
What?
It wasn't a frown, it was a
That's a little passive
Was
aggressive.
that in the chat?
I didn't know that was music and more. It should have been from
Facebook.
Kenny.
Oh, it's
It
on
should have been from
Facebook,
Kenny.
okay.
I was signed in
Jeez.
under the wrong account.
Jesus.
Wow.
Talk
Music.
about kicking a guy.
While he's down.
Hadn't even heard it.
Yeah, hadn't even heard it.
Not even an open mind.
Yeah.
Hey, no, I did have an open mind. I was just trying to be funny because that's what I do.
Yeah, well, sometimes tone is hard to convey on the
Online.
internet.
With a face.
Indeed.
Right? And so I love to we love to pick out some records downstairs. Now we just added Clint this month. We got his on the board. So we're gonna go through and look at some of our records. And so is there any specific order we have to go in, Clint?
I have Mike's queued up already.
Oh.
Mike, where are you?
Mike's first.
The Mike show today.
Mike got
The Mike Show. I picked Eagles on the Border, and I put the quadraphonic copy on there
Yes.
because last month we were kind of talking about
Quads.
quads. I don't know. This isn't my favorite Eagles album, but it's got a few of my favorite songs. Already Gone is on it. James Dean.
you sing it for us?
No, I won't.
There you go. Stick to your guns.
But this is where they were transitioning from a 4-piece to a 5-piece. This is where they started bringing Don Felder in as a basically third guitarist. So, and this is kind of the album. Glenn Frey will tell you the transition time for being a country rock band to just kind of being a rock band. So, I don't know. It's just kind of a fun album.
Good one.
Well,
Who's
let's go
next?
to Josh.
Oh,
I have questions.
Which one are you again?
really?
Which one was he?
None
Lance
of these ones.
Yeah.
Josh isn't gonna touch that album. Can he?
Oh yeah, you were here.
Yes.
There we are.
Okay. My pick, Women and Children first.
Are they getting off a boat?
Yeah. Tora Tora from
That was good. That was
the
good.
Cradle of Rock, Romeo's Delight. I mean, a simple rhyme. There's just, you're harder pressed to find a better Van Halen album, in my opinion. That's debatable. A lot of people argue the cover is classic. I love the cover of this record. And yeah,
What's your favorite song on that album? Is it
yeah,
hard to
I
say?
don't know. Yeah, I can't. Everybody Wants Some is on here. Take Your Whiskey Home. There's just a lot of
Better Off Dead.
variety.
Better off dead.
Better
Everybody
Off Dead.
wants some.
So Clint and I are huge movie buffs.
Yeah.
So we love to place a lot of these songs within movies. And there is a great scene with him in the kitchen, and he's flipping hamburgers, and he's like, "Everybody wants
The
some."
claymation burger and all that. I'm pretty sure that Steve Holland blew his entire
Can't
music
really-
budget on
you
that
can't
one
really
song.
sing the song.
Now does
We're gonna get us arrested.
there you go.
Oh,
Well, he
you're
wasn't
right.
close enough to the song for it to get picked up by the. So did David Lee Roth play the acoustic guitar on? Is this Magic or the Magic?
And I don't believe so.
I thought I heard somebody say that David Lee Roth played some acoustic guitar on some.
David played the ego.
Well, of course, he played the ego. You know, but
Interesting side note, when we talk about Loss of Control is on this record. Drumeo just had Wolfgang Van Halen, Eddie's son, on.
Love that.
He was talking about his uncle, Alex Van Halen, and did a lot of Drumeo videos. The drummers play along with the songs. Wolfgang can play all of his uncle's drum parts.
For real?
Pretty good. He
Wow.
can play most of his dad's guitar parts, and he knows all the bass lines because he was bass player in Van Halen for years. So if you want to see somebody really talk about Van Halen, I highly suggest watching Wolfgang on that Drumeo video that just posted last week, I think. It was a really interesting read. Or watch, I should say.
Van Halen. So who's next?
some guy. Yeah, I thought. David Lee Roth played acoustic guitar on Ice Cream Man, different album. And
First
the
one.
rhythm part on Could This Be Magic? But Eddie plays this song. Okay, well, whatever. But I don't believe everything I read on the internet.
I learned something new today.
So
And who is next here?
let's go with Brad. Well, the part Brad will.
Somebody
Brad
needs to hold
will-
Brad's face up, and you want to get his comment? I'll
Yeah,
hold the record.
Here, I'll hold Brad's face up again. This is our stand-in for Brad.
And I'll hold his record up.
I'm going to make sure I'm always here because I'd hate to see what my stand-in would be. Simon and Garfunkel Bookends is their best, great songwriting, the peak of their powers. I loved hearing the song Mrs. Robinson on the radio when I was young, but I had no idea what it was referring to in the movie. Now it's just more nostalgia. So,
Which movie? Wayne's World or The Graduate?
The Graduate.
Wayne's World 2.
Yeah, and
Oh.
Wayne's World 2.
Nice.
Those.
Yes, indeed.
Yes.
Well, and then of course we have Kenny.
And
I'm talking about the artist, not the. Well, okay, I'm talking both.
now, I had to put this album because I am going to tell you all, as a picker, I'm gonna tell you
It's
two
open,
different
but it's-
stories on this Kenny Rogers. First, as a boy growing up, my dad had his album collection, and literally that's how my listening experience started. I was taking out records that he had in his bin, putting them on. That's how the Elvis thing started. This is how my great love for this guy or Sha Na. I can tell you all the things I can remember. Bobby Vinton. Anything that was in there, I can still remember that seared in my brain, right, from what Dad was listening to. And this album right here, I can still listen to this album. And it's funny, as a collector now, there is not a collection that I don't find from anybody in the 80s who didn't have this record on here. The Gambler, Lucille Ruby, Coward of the County, right, which was turned into a movie, You Decorated My Life, Don't Fall in Love with a Dreamer. I love also Lady on here. And the interesting thing about Lady is Kenny Rogers actually calls Lionel Richie. And he says, hey, I'm doing a greatest hits album. I need a song. I need you to cut me a song. Lionel Richie goes off, he says, apparently to the bathroom, okay? And he is just pondering, and he writes this thing in 30 minutes and goes back to the piano and presents it, and Lady becomes a huge hit and one of the best songs on the album. And so I absolutely love this record. I think it's filled with bangers. Yes,
Well,
thank
yeah,
you very
it's the
much.
greatest- It's the greatest hits.
I was going to say,
It's a compilation
I'm
record,
glad you got a greatest hits in there for Mike. 'Cause
right?
I mean,
It's one of those subplots. Mike hates greatest hits albums and live albums.
Doesn't hate them.
he eschews them
I loathe them. I loathe them.
with a smoldering. Okay, well, let's go to Lance.
Oh.
Yeah, see how.
Well, how am I supposed to follow that?
That's very
Christ.
easy.
Well, easy with some
Is
Jethro
is that a greatest
Tull.
hits?
No,
Jethro Tull
this is
greatest
their
hits?
third album. So this is Benefit by Jethro Tull. It's their third album. Funny enough, I picked this album because I really like this song, Teacher, but this is the UK pressing, and Teacher's not on this. Teacher is on the US pressing, so that's kind of funny, a little ironic, but yeah, I don't know. I don't have a big heartfelt story like Kenny. I just snagged it.
I told you, I go big or go home, right?
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, there are no spoilers because he set my pick up against the thing facing the camera, but I went with Johnny Horton's Greatest Hits because, first of all, I could go ahead and stick it to Mike with a Greatest Hits album. No, I do have a similar story with Johnny Horton. He was one of those artists that my dad really liked to listen to way back when. And, he started off as the singing fisherman. He had some ties to Elvis. One of his early albums, he used Elvis as bass player. Johnny Cash was a big fan of his. He ended up marrying, I think, Hank Williams' widow. He was kind of entwined. Killed in a car accident, unfortunately, in Shreveport. But he tried a lot of different things, and he ended up, it didn't stick with any of them a whole lot, but after doing like some geology, he decided he was going to go look for gold up in Alaska. And boy, oh boy, was that lyrical gold for him. Springtime in Alaska,
sounds like a lyric.
Pines, all that sort of stuff. So you hear the influence of the time he spent in Alaska and some of his greatest hits. My 18-year-old, he actually loves Johnny Horton as well, and I don't know, I just think that's a really solid collection of really awesome artists.
Battle of New Orleans is my favorite.
Battle of New
Battle of New
Orleans,
Orleans.
yeah.
North to Alaska.
Yeah, I didn't even get to hold my album. He's got it over
You
there.
want- Does it give you a hold?
Yeah, there you go. But yeah, no, so what do we got? You have Battle of New Orleans, Think the Bismarck, of course. When It's Springtime in Alaska is my favorite. Whispering Pines, North to Alaska, way up north, that kind of stuff. So
That was fast.
yeah, Johnny Reb, Johnny Free, Jim Bridger, a lot of these had historical tie-ins. And one of the things that my dad always liked is he liked, say, like the Red Soul Vine or Boxcar Willie, some of these guys that did these country and western songs, both kinds. But they told stories, and for, my dad always liked songs that told stories, and I suppose that was his draw to Johnny Horton, but I guess I've always liked him as well, and as a kid who grew up in the mountains, I liked the Alaska tie-in, so there you go.
Yeah, I love story songs too. I absolutely, whether they're in rock, whether they're in country. Even Bad Company has one of my favorite story songs. What is it?
Shooting Star.
Yes, very good. Great story song.
They got a lot of other really good songs too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You should turn off the AM radio and turn on the
Tesla's
turntable.
really good cover sheet.
Right?
AM radio is the best. It just sounds bigger. It's,
Well, I will say this too, though, as a person who still sells records in the antique mall and in the store on eBay, I do have a lot of people who are always looking for Johnny Horton. And so a lot of times when I go places, people will always pick out the Van Halen, and I can find some nice copies of Johnny Horton that I can sell because I know they will end up still selling for about $10 a piece. So helps keep the lights on in here.
Piece for the new air conditioner.
Oh yes, if you didn't notice, which we had to shut it down a little bit ago to make sure it wasn't blocking out the mic. I had to put in another $6,000 to an air conditioner.
But it's worth it. We're upstairs in here, and it is well appreciated. I tilted the camera down. Too bad. Otherwise, it could have been the guest star of because
It
we're
could have
glad
been
we-
Brad.
That could have been Brad. The part of Brad will be played by the
By the air
Commando
conditioner.
8 here.
And one of the things I'd like to say as we look at this, I know we have to, I keep reminding Eric, who is the store employee, to try to tell people to put their name in the bin. And I don't think we got many names in this month. So you're going to have a 50% chance of winning in there.
Actually, it's a 100% chance
It's a
of
100.
winning.
I thought there was 2 in there.
Yeah, but I'm one of them.
Yeah,
I
he's
can't-
one of them. He can't win.
He can't put it in. Did you vote for me too?
I did. I voted for Kenny
Kenny
Rogers.
Rogers.
Thank you.
Eric won.
Eric, you won this month. When you come in next time,
You get $1,000.
you get $10, and I know you're a faithful follower, Eric.
What?
So it's good to give you
We were
$10 on this
talking
one when you come in.
$1,000 off camera.
What's that?
Yeah, you
Okay,
said
well,
1,000 when before it went live.
That's what I heard.
Oh, you guys are killing
Just
me.
split the difference, make it 150.
I'm sure he wouldn't mind,
That'd
right?
be the logarithmic difference.
So when you come into the store, it's another thing that I like to do, right? Is we
Make
can
sure you
we're-
come in when Eric's working. Eric.
It's
Yep.
double punch day.
Double punch day.
So what he's referring to is all the picks that we just went through. Every month, all of us pick a record. We put it up in the store. As you come in, go by the record wall where Kenny has the record player. You can demo records you want to try out or listen to stuff. They're all up there, and we encourage you to vote. Every month when we do the show, we pick one winner, and they get $10 in store credit. So
And as
They get $10, not 10,000.
And as a latecomer, I actually just hung my little tray down there today. So now there'll actually even be some good ones. So,
Oh!
I had to. Sorry.
That was a good one. Hey, you like mine? You said.
Well, I mean, it was lesser of the evil.
We only
five
have to
evils.
pick.
Yeah,
from
we
what's
only
in
can
the
pick
bin.
from the store
So,
a
yeah.
lot. There's selection.
Which is a great plug, everybody. Remember, all of these records that you see too that we plug are for sale, right?
Indeed. And we've had times actually where I think someone has purchased one of the picks.
Yep.
And we had to scramble and pick another one.
Lance-
They're all Josh's, I think.
No, Lance's first pick got picked or sold right away.
Which
You're
was that
welcome.
one?
It
I
was
don't even remember because I didn't pick it.
it was Michael Bolton.
No, it was Richard Marks.
Richard Marks,
Oh,
that's
well, there
right.
you go.
Yeah,
Because
wasn't
he
even
wasn't
for it.
here, and I
Repeat
just
We were
picked
messing
it.
with him. We were giving him the Stewart pick, right? Winger from.
And we threw it. I just threw that up there, and it sold like the next week. So
He is a repeat
You
offender.
won by
after all,
default.
so, you know.
no, it was a repeat.
What were some of the
offender.
other ones you picked that were sold? You remember? Queen? Wasn't there a Queen one? Maybe no.
Might have been. You sold the last month to that lady from Jamestown. What did I have up there?
Tesla.
Oh, it might have been Mechanical Resonance. Yeah.
Yes, yep, that's what it was. Yep, she came in and bought that one. And so, hey, and the great thing with doing this too now is there have been other people who have wanted to watch the show that we do, but they don't have Facebook.
Right.
So now that we go to YouTube, we can now make ourselves accessible to both channels.
Absolutely.
Indeed.
But how do they know that we're on Facebook?
Thanks.
We tell them.
We tell them.
Thank you, Michael.
Word of mouth, baby.
We got to share. We like and share.
Okay.
Hey, and actually, if I make this plug a little bit earlier with a little help, right? Because I get a little busy. We can all like and share before the week, up to a week before the show.
I would really like to like and share the weekly new arrival videos.
Oh, have those started coming out yet?
No,
They once.
they were a great
This week.
idea. You literally bought a record one time from the video, right? Or
I know
did you
Greg
want
did.
one?
One of our watchers, Greg did one time.
Oh, was it him?
Yeah,
I
he
thought
bought
it
a
was
police.
Lance.
He saw me have a police on there. Oh, which reminds me, Greg, you're gonna make the episode here because Greg called me tonight, and I'll have to set you up with this convo. He wants to know if someone has a record flattener, and so I told him, I said, Josh does it, but the problem is there is no guarantee that in the heating process of rewarming that record to get it flat that it won't get ruined.
Right. Well, we won't ruin them, but they might not get flat. It really depends on if they're edge warped or not. We can try to flatten them. It will never be worse if we try to flatten it. I'll never warm anything up that high. I'm in the process of looking at buying the newer, more higher end model.
Okay.
So that might be something we can do.
I can maybe help you sell your older one then once we.
Maybe it would depend. Because they're two different systems. One's automated, and the one that I use is, like we've tried. I can literally try to flatten a record for 12 hours without ever damaging it. So
Okay.
this other one you can't. It's not built that way. But yeah, so anytime we can, if you guys have anything you want us to try, we can try it. I can usually look at it. Now we've done so many that Kenny and I can usually look at them and tell if we can get it
We're gonna
flat
get
or
'em.
not. Yep.
Well, and here's the thing. I'll tell everybody my inspiration behind doing this is I want to restore old stuff. I've started buying some new. I have a lot of new stuff that I just picked up. But my bread and butter for me is buying the old stuff and then I ultrasonically clean it. I bought a $1,200 cleaning system and I like to try to ultrasonically clean them all. And that uses cavitation, so it heats up water and sends out a penetrating bubble into the water, which hits the record, taking that dirt out of the album. And so then you can't put that back into a dirty sleeve, so I have to put that into a nice clean plastic sleeve or paper, depending on what's cheaper.
Paper or plastic?
Paper or
Cost
plastic.
is no option.
Yeah, you're
That's
good.
saving musical history. At
It's
Music
about
and More.
efficiency here at Music and More, right? Trying to bring the cost down for you. And anyway,
You can't put a price tag on preservation.
The free German sleeves that I brought. dropped
Right.
off.
German sleeves and the cheap paper ones.
Yeah.
The best
Awesome
cleaning
sleeves.
possible, but
whatever's more affordable on the sleeve. So we'll.
Are
so,
they archival quality?
Yes.
litmus. for
Only the
here.
OMRs are.
No, there's a lot of sleeves that are archival quotes.
Are they metric or imperial?
Now you got me. So we'll try to restore those, and with the discs that I put out, the CDs, I try to buff them all, make them clean, get them like new again. I bought some cleaning machines for those, and so my kind of spin here is trying to get everything like new and put it back out. So if you're not 100% satisfied, right, we'll give it back and make sure that you're taken care of. And so with that, I think that, do we got anything else?
What time is it?
Gee whiz, we're wrapping up
We
quick.
got 9
Yeah, we still got
minutes
about
to
9
burn.
minutes. We try to be about an hour.
Right?
We're short. Brad's 10 minutes.
Short Brad.
Yeah.
Brad, we're missing Brad.
And so for some
got
of
any
you
comments?
who don't get to see Brad, yeah, look at comments again. That is good. Brad is, I always say, my comment for Brad is, all of us would probably say the same, but I have especially said when I started listening to Brad many years ago, Brad seems to know everything. I can call him on the phone, and I will say I have some mundane artist from 1940, and he goes, that's on a green Atco label, and I'm like, and I look at it, and it's a green Atco label. We were literally testing him in the store here. He pretty much knows everything.
He nailed them all.
That's just spooky. I do have a thank you from Eric on the live chat on YouTube.
Nice.
Don't forget the live chat feature. He gives us some props for his $10,000 in store credit to everyone.
We can talk
So,
about
The store is now yours.
and all that entails.
We talk about Kenny's spectacular experience with seeing Bob Dylan.
Oh, yes.
Kenny's new favorite artist is
Oh,
Bob
man.
Dylan.
It's all he's been talking about is how Bob Dylan blew his mind, basically.
I thought it was
He's
seriously underwhelmed. Was that?
Yeah, that was seriously
Here-
underwhelmed. I
let-
went back
here-
and looked at it. When he
here's-
said he didn't say he wasn't disappointed,
Here's the
I went back and looked at the chat.
We're
Yeah.
gonna
Is
that
preface.
what it
We're
was?
gonna
Seriously?
preface.
What did I say?
No, we're
Seriously
gonna
underwhelmed.
I'm gonna preface this, the whole thing, because it started when on one of our episodes. If you go back to
Keep
November, I don't think our November one is on there,
No, it's not.
Nope.
but it was Brad's first pick. He picked
The
the
basement.
Basement
Tapes.
Tapes, Bob Dylan and the band. Kenny's been getting on this Bob Dylan kick because everybody goes, they're all Christian. They all go their Christian phase. And Kenny's mind was blown when he heard these Bob Dylan Christian albums. And he's getting on this Bob Dylan kick. And he wanted us all to go see Bob Dylan. First he wanted us to go to Minnesota.
I
to
forgot
see
about
Bob
that one.
Dylan.
Yes.
None of us took the bait because we're all like,
I don't have Bob Dylan. money.
we're not going to go see 81-year-old Bob Dylan.
No.
Then he decides he's going to go see him in Phoenix and tries to get us to go. We should all go see Bob Dylan and Willie Nelson. None of us want to go see Bob Dylan.
It
I mean,
should have been.
and
a
it's
hit.
nothing against
It's
Bob
Bob Dylan.
Dylan.
Nope, absolutely not.
nothing against Bob Dylan. Oh, and part of it because the Bob Dylan movie came out this winter, and Kenny was on a high from that movie.
Selling lots of Bob Dylan.
So Kenny takes his trek to Phoenix, and I'm expecting, because we're all in a group chat, and Kenny's gonna. Who was the first band that played?
My sister, he's a new kind of
Yeah,
fiddler. He's a bluegrass guy. Absolutely blew my socks off. I've never heard him before. Bobby, no,
I'll
Bobby
look.
Strings.
Bobby Strings.
Right.
Billy String.
Billy Strings.
So Kenny, Billy Strings is, and so I'm like, here's the night. Kenny's gonna be blowing our phone up with
Ding,
Bob
ding,
Dylan. It's
ding.
gonna be. I'm gonna have to shut my phone off and see in the morning 1,000 texts from Kenny.
I did learn
about
how to
Bob
mute
Dylan.
a chat thanks to our group.
So then I wake up the next morning and I'm expecting to have 100 texts. Look, nothing. And I'm like, yeah, that's what I thought. I'm like, I was like, was just Kenny. Bob Dylan experience wasn't what he built it up in his head to be.
Well, when he first said, the first time he said we should all go to Minnesota to watch Bob Dylan, we were all sitting in the store, and I said, it's not going to be what you expect. And he must not have heard that. Because most of us, it's Brad's seen him, I've seen him. Have you ever seen him?
I haven't seen him, but I mean,
It is not.
It's not for a casual fan.
Right. He's definitely gearing toward his more diehard fans. So it's not. And you can never judge an artist based on one show, because one show could be one way, could be awful, and the next night's really good. So, but it's not a greatest hits concert when you go to see Bob Dylan. So.
And
That's
is
what Kenny was expecting.
Kenny was expecting Bob to be up there with his guitar and harmonica, singing Tambourine Man,
playing Slow Train Coming,
Lay Lady Lay, and Bob. If you've seen the movie, the whole point of the movie and Bob is he's gonna do what he's gonna do. He's not gonna, he might go up there intentionally just play goofy shit just to mess with people.
It's funny you say that, because I remember I was reading an interview where someone was talking to Bob about concerts, and they were telling Bob, people don't want to hear your new album. They want to hear the hits when you go to them in concert. It's not about your album. So it's funny you say that.
He doesn't
But
care.
he doesn't care.
He doesn't care.
That's what he wants.
I still think, I still think going to an artist that you loved 30 years ago and they're in their 80s is going to be a letdown, because you're not going to have the magic
that they once had.
I don't agree with that sentiment. You have to. Artists are going to age. I mean.
Well, you have to go with that in that context.
Right. You have to. You can't become. No offense, Kenny. You can't become a Bob Dylan fan today.
Right.
And expect what was coming. So in that sense, I agree with you. You can't expect
even
what would happen in
that.
60.
But I don't even
Gotcha.
think if you back it up 20 years and put Kenny in the same situation,
it would have been
the same experience.
Well, and here's to tell you how 100% these guys are right now, and it's not often I'll give people the credit for being right.
Facts.
But they are right
We
here.
should have a new countdown.
When Kenny can admit
Just
that
run.
these guys are right.
Never stop. It should be right here.
Right here. And so I went there, I listened to the concert. I mean, and it was cool, like the feeling of like knowing that you're listening to a legend right now was unbeatable. Like, I know this guy is like.
I'll give you credit for going down and doing
Absolutely.
it.
Right? Bucket list.
This guy has, well, and it's actually been one of the things that I've been saying for a while. And when my sister called me with the opportunity, it's never been on my list to go see Bob Dylan or Willie Nelson, but it has been on my list to. I've been saying to people, who are those people that I know are going to die that I need to see before they die?
Jeez.
I'm just keeping it real.
It's true.
And so, for example, one of them was Frankie Valli, and then I heard they're wheeling him out in a wheelchair, and I'm like, I don't know if I want to see Frankie Valli like that.
Well, that's
He's
true. With Bob
he's
Dylan,
not even singing. He's singing. He's literal. You've seen the videos. He's singing to a track that's probably 50 years old.
Right.
so
So
got
that's
an
kind of
eight
worrisome.
track in the back. They put it up
He's like a robot. I think he's even just a robot.
Well, that's the thing. So when we're talking about Bob Dylan, we're kind of talking about Bob Dylan. He's kind of a phenomenon unto himself. The blanket statement that I made doesn't really apply to an artist who evolves and who doesn't really fit. Just isn't in a narrow lane. But there are plenty of artists out there that are like, hey, look, the magic is gone. You're past your expiration date. I liken it to a movie sequel. You go see this groundbreaking movie, in many cases, when you go to a movie, you see a sequel to a movie, you want to capture the magic of seeing that the first time. Well, by the same token, I mean, there's some bands that just blew my mind in the 70s and the 80s that I'm not going to have that same experience going and seeing them in concert now, even if they're playing, their greatest hits and all. But I've never been real big on live performances. That some blow you away. Sammy Hagar, for instance. That just any chance I get to see Sammy. Some are really performers. Other ones are out there promoting the album.
Well, so when I say this, I'll say like that my reluctance to Bob Dylan has not been the songwriting, because obviously a lot of other people, even including Elvis, have sang a Bob Dylan song 3 times in one show. But it was always the voice. I'm not that. I can't get his voice down. Well, what's interesting is you can go onto YouTube, and we're coming back here from the funeral this weekend. My mom's with me, and she might be watching right now. And so I'm plugging
Hi,
you
Kenny's
now, Mom.
Kenny's mom.
Mama O, I've been calling her.
If I'd have known you were watching, I probably wouldn't have been swearing. Sorry.
Yeah, lesson learned.
She probably laugh when I walk in the door now. So anyway, and you can actually this whole concert, and I forgot to text you all because I got so busy, and then I got back, but as we say it now, that concert, somebody downloaded all of the
whole show.
so you can watch all the songs. He was only 11 songs. He did 11 songs, and my mom actually said his voice sounds much better now than it did, many years ago. She actually liked his voice now, and she was actually trying to find some of the next songs, that he did in the set. And so to go back to your comment again, though, so I'm not following Bob through his whole career. I only know from my library. You picked it exactly. I don't have a huge library on Bob, so I wasn't able to really stamp many songs. I think I got 3 or 4 songs that I knew he did. It Ain't Me, Babe, which was it's one of my favorites. So I actually really love that song. So that was a treat to be able to hear that one. But the problem that I had with the show, not that I was like the fascination of seeing a legend, was that he stuck behind his piano the whole time. And then I read other comments later on saying he's always been like that. He's not front. When Willie came out, he was right up front stage and center. You got to see him. He was kind of tucked behind the piano the whole time.
Here comes the 4th reference.
What did you say? Maybe you were just biased because
The greatest
the
live performer of all time.
The person you love so much was so great, and it's like, but you never even got to see him. You're just taking it on.
Maybe someday I'll get to see a hologram Elvis show. That would be cool.
Maybe.
Yeah, that
Just go watch an impersonator.
That'd
There's
be
hundreds
cool.
of those
Yeah.
around.
Yeah.
I actually do every time I go to Vegas.
Yeah. Or in your own mirror. Kenny's an Elvis impersonator.
Yes, he is an Elvis impersonator.
I do love to watch me.
Yeah, we know.
So that was a great plug. It was great to see the show. Oh, and Willie Nelson followed that. And I'll tell you, he's 10 years older than Bob. And Willie was up and down on that thing. What's that?
He was a highwayman.
Right?
He was after Bob Dylan?
He was after. So Willie Nelson actually closed the show. And the cool thing about Willie is that he did every single hit. He did Always on My Mind, which Elvis did first. And and anyway, but the
who
interesting
wrote that?
thing, actually, it wasn't either of those. It wasn't a Willie song. It was actually done by Mark James or somebody.
Elvis didn't write that one.
And so Elvis did it because it was
he
in the
didn't write that
Elvis did it originally in '73 because it was part of the Divorce album, and so for him it had meaning at the time. He was telling Priscilla, maybe I didn't love you quite as good as I could have, but you were always on my mind. And so Willie does it 8 years later.
So
then
A lot better.
So, but he didn't write it from the heart. He's just like, oh, that song is how I feel.
Yeah.
he heard it.
Oh, he heard
and he
it.
put the feeling to
And
it.
Priscilla, I love you.
somebody
I-
else wrote the lyrics,
Yeah.
and he applied a meaning to it based on his interpretation, which is what
Elvis
we
did.
do.
Well, the
Whatever.
Pet Shop Boys do a pretty driving rendition of that song.
Do they
as
really?
well.
I didn't know that.
And I think they're still the #1 selling duo in the history of Britain,
Okay.
domestically in Britain.
Wow, I would have never known that. So anyway, with that, what I would say about Willie and how he sings is the regular song is kind of drawn out. The way that Willie sung at this concert was kind of interesting in how he would sing it really fast, and then the whole rhythm would catch up. So he'd be like, "Maybe I didn't love you," and he'd be like, "Boo, da, 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 quite as often as I could have," and then the rest would kind of go. So he was just way fast, but it was kind of cool. I mean, it was because it was Willie style, and he was front and center. So there you have it.
Right.
But good concert. But Billy Strings, is that what we say we agreed his name was? Absolutely phenomenal.
Amazing.
I've never heard that guy before, and then I looked it up. He has a couple Grammys already.
Yep.
He's only been out 4 to 5 years. Bluegrass, just
He's got a couple Grammys, so
Amazing guitar player.
he's legitimate because the Grammys are a legitimate organization.
right. Beyonce, for example, getting the country what?
Let's not get Mike started on
No,
that.
No, get
no,
Mike
no.
started.
So they carried Bob Dylan, is what you're saying?
Yeah. Well, and I should say all of them. What was interesting, and you can see how they're kind of old, and now as I
They
get
were the
older, and you
bread
can
and the
see how
best
tricks
friends
are done. They kind of put both of them in the middle, and they all kind of even around Bob. The other 3 guys kind of sit around him and ready to kind of take over for him if they need to, if they miss something. Like Willie is right here, and his son's like right next to him, and just kind of like watching him, like ready to take over if he fails in some way. So I thought it was kind of neat how they can still bring him out there, but they're ready to save them at a given moment.
I guess that's not how I want to see my favorite artists. I guess what my friends and I in high school and college used to do things like we'd pick a day, like National Hepatitis Day, and everybody wore yellow or stuff like that. Or I remember we had a Bob Dylan day where everybody had to talk like Bob Dylan. Like what if he did the Band-Aid jingle?
What did you have to get national hepatitis?
Well, I mean, we were stretching. We needed something.
We need a cause.
Yeah, I remember somebody was like, well, what if he sung the Band-Aid theme and stuck on Band-Aid, Band-Aid, stick on me, So that was Bob Dylan Day. So.
The voice, I like it. But what I would...
Down with that.
Hey, if he's going to suck the air out of the room with all the death stuff,
What
whatever, I can at least
What
swerve
day
us
is
off
National Hepatitis Day so I can make sure to wear yellow? Because that is the funniest
I
thing
haven't
I've
done
heard
that
all
since
day.
the 80s.
Well, now we got to.
Well, I think it's June
all of you
1st.
can do it
June
too.
1st is now, here at the shop, it'll be, so we're
Yes.
yellow.
You could have done a
Anything
single
else?
benefit. You could have been like, you could have got all the A-list, sent that to the record companies and said, we need to spread awareness for hepatitis.
I'm not real good at monetizing things, so,
It's the next Farm Aid.
Yeah. Farm Aid, Hep Aid.
Oh my gosh.
Come into Music and More wearing yellow for hepatitis.
That's
You can
right.
get 10% off.
Yes, yes. If anybody remembers that, you'll get 10% off.
That should be,
The concert will be right out in the parking lot.
that should be a
Wow.
that
Local
should be
artists.
official shop T-shirt. Down with Hep. Music and More.
Get some local bands.
It's our official cause now. Hepatitis.
We are going to sponsor this.
And we're not going to A, B, or C. We don't care.
No,
we don't discriminate.
it's all
It's just all of them.
hepatitis.
It's the whole lot.
Inclusivity.
I think on that
And with
note,
that-
it's time to go home.
So this was the May episode
I'm gonna
in
get
June.
that shirt made.
Well, make sure it's yellow.
I need an extra large.
Yellow down with Hep.
This episode is brought to you by Music and More. It is the May episode in June. We got one more now in the last of this
the
month.
last week, yep.
And hopefully Brad will be back to entertain us, give us some more info.
Brad
Otherwise,
probably ain't gonna want to come back.
Yeah.
Nah, he doesn't watch these
He
things.
probably didn't want. He probably tuned in right when we were talking about.
Right when you were
hepatitis.
cussing.
Sorry, Brad.
And then about the time we get that death lull right there, it's like, oh, I guess click. But
and with that, I think we've got
I
a
think
good
we've
hour
got
in
it.
now.
Yes, we got her covered.
So we thank you for watching us. Catch us at the end of this month. We'll be
Yep.
back. And who's got next record?
Me.
Josh. So,
Danzig's first solo record.
for real? You gonna tell us already?
No.
Oh no, okay. It is not Danzig. So anyway, thank you everybody for tuning in.
thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much.
Oh, geez, we let him get one more in. I should have been quicker on this button.
Shut up.
Kenny's Music and More, a place like no other. With records and cassettes, he's a music lover. Blues, rock, country, and more to explore. 10,000 vinyls and memorabilia galore. Come on down to the shop, there's something for all. Step into the world of music and more, where melodies and memories are in store. From Elvis to polka, we have it all. At Kenny's Music and More, you'll have a ball. A teacher and a DJ with a passion so deep. Kenny knows every lyric even in his sleep. His collection is unique, a treasure trove. In Bismarck, Indy, it's the place to just rove. In every record there's a story to be told. Into the world of music and more, where melodies and memories are in store. From Elvis to polka, we have it all. At Kenny's Music and More.